All right, everybody, welcome to the program. I'd like to introduce a special guest tonight. We have a lady here from a very interesting Tick Awareness Canada. I guess you were telling us earlier it's an actual, it's not just a Facebook page, but it's actually a society or whatever. But we have Jill Mcallister from Alberta. Of course, Darren and I, my partner in crime. We're going to have a great conversation tonight about ticks, everything about them. Just even mentioning the name makes our skin crawl. Hopefully Jill can give us the good, bad, and the ugly on these things. So Jill, welcome to our program. Very excited to have you tonight. I know Darren and I both talked numerous times about having you on. It doesn't just affect animals, it affects everything when it comes to the outdoors. So that's why I wanted to have you there. So thank you, Jill.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Darren.
You betcha. I guess to start our program off, I know that people might not be aware of what Tick Awareness Canada is, and they might think, oh, this is a heavily funded program that's ran by the government, but that's not the truth, Jill. I want you to give our viewers and listeners kind of the history of Tick Awareness Canada and how it started, and kind of what the goal of Tick Awareness Canada is, please.
No, well, Tick Awareness Canada, we are the opposite of heavily funded. We are completely unfunded unless it comes out of my pocket. We do sell tick removal kits as a way of funding what we do, and we do have a fundraiser happening right now with raffle tickets. We'll get into that in a bit. Tick Awareness Canada. 12 years ago, I knew nothing about ticks. We had pulled them off our cats when we were younger, and we poked them with pins and did everything wrong on how to remove ticks. But it was 12 years ago when my son got ill, unexplainably, and his condition worsened, and he had more and more symptoms, so many doctor visits. That was at age 13. At age 15, he had brain surgery. At 16, he had sinus surgery. Still nothing is improving. Things are actually getting worse or building symptoms. And it wasn't until 7.5 years later, he tested positive out of country for 5 tick-borne infections. Because one tick bite can give you multiple infections.
So we're talking about, don't want to say it, but misdiagnosis of the incident. So you had to go out and get the mom instinct kind of took over, and you had to do your own research and kind of got going with that. What did you find out? What were some things you learned on your journey, with your son, and what are some things that some of our listeners might need to know about, illness that they think that it's something else, but it could be a wood tick?
Well, it's sad to say that, my son Connor he has 5 diagnoses. He has all these he has 5 different acknowledged medical diagnoses based on 3 symptoms for that, 2 symptoms for another diagnosis. If you look at all the symptoms together, they make no sense. So doctors have really struggled to break down and just include 3 symptoms. And it equals a common illness that's within their box of knowledge. A lot of clinicians aren't taught about tick-borne infection. There's no teaching of it, so they're not going to know a lot about them. Another goal of our group is to get awareness and education out there. And there's smaller groups across Canada that have held conferences that invite clinicians to attend and learn about tick-borne illnesses, the signs, the symptoms, recommended treatments. It's a big, ugly ball of wax, unfortunately. But Tick Awareness Canada, there's a number of us that are our families are all affected by somebody or themselves with tick-borne illnesses and lacking proper treatment. So we formed this group, Tick Awareness Canada, and our goal is to educate others. I mean, my passion is children. I don't want to see another child go through what mine went through. And you actually have a pretty prominent case right now in Humboldt area in Saskatchewan of a child that was just recently diagnosed out of country again with Lyme disease, PANS and PANDAS, which is all neurological. Lyme tick-borne illnesses can present physical disabilities, neurological, so many ways.
So Jill, let's start right at the source. We all know what a tick looks like, but what is a tick?
A tick is an arachnid. It's actually a spider, part of a spider family. So when a tick has 4 life stages, we commonly have hard-bodied ticks. So there's 4 life stages to a tick. There's an egg. And when the egg hatches out, those are larval ticks. Like larval ticks are the size of, make a dot with the end of your pen. So they're very tiny. So every life stage requires a blood meal. So larval ticks commonly feed on small rodents, or if you happen to walk through a nest of fresh hatched ticks. They'll attach to anything with blood, get their first blood meal, they fall off, and they morph into a nymph-sized tick, which would be the teenager tick. And again, they need a blood meal. So they feed, fall off, morph into an adult tick. Adult tick needs a blood meal. The males will mate the females and die. The females will feed. And those are the ones that get really plump like a raisin. The females engorge, fall off, lay thousands of eggs, and the cycle starts over.
I know there's so many wives' tales when it comes to wood ticks. Like, the wood tick is born and then it kind of latches on and its life cycle is to feed and then it falls off when it's full. That's not the case. And when we were talking earlier, they can actually fall off, and then you're saying that you do a lot of testing on roadkill and you pick up wood tick. In that situation, that animal is now gone from a living species to a non-living creature, and scavengers come by, and you're saying that they can actually pull out and then get onto raptors and get onto coyotes and get onto whatever. Can you explain a little bit about how they transport onto different species, and what might be the biggest species of animal that carries wood ticks and spreads them throughout our country?
Wow. Well, anything with blood, we'll start there. So that's going to encompass a lot of animals and people. Birds are the #1 transporters of many species of ticks. So every spring, we get billions of birds come back to Canada, and they bring with them millions of ticks. Not only do we have our ticks commonly found in Canada, but we'll get ticks that are from South America or from Europe. Will end up in Canada, because if you ever check out bird migratory pathways, well, they encompass the globe. They scoot across the oceans and come back to Canada. So it's been tested. There's lots of research done. We have a great Canadian researcher. His name is John, middle initial D, Scott. And if you look on our website, on our tickawarenesscanada.com website, all of his published papers are there. He's done phenomenal work.
So say we're in Alberta and Saskatchewan, what are how many species of tick that we have that would be sort of common to somebody that would be going camping per se?
I mean, we have over 20 known species of ticks in the provinces, but we also get Lone Star ticks. Not common in the West, but we'll get them, and that's the one that can cause that red meat allergy. Now, I'm sure there's not an outdoorsman that wants to contract a red meat allergy, to the point where it causes anaphylaxis. People have died from this allergy. So it's not just, oh, it makes me feel off. It can be quite serious. So any biting tick can transmit illnesses. So like there's rabbit ticks, groundhog ticks, skunk ticks, wood ticks, dog ticks, deer ticks. They all have a common name, but that doesn't mean they only feed on those common named animals. They will feed on you given the opportunity.
So if I picked a tick off my dog, would it be the same one that would say attached to my leg?
It certainly could. The same species, you mean?
Well, like, I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, like, if I pick a tick off my dog.
Throw it away?
No, but it could be the same one that would attach to my leg. Like, they're not specific to certain animals.
Oh, no. No, if you've got blood and you're a warm body, you're a meal.
Now, I know that there's, I've seen some different posts about identifying ticks. Males look a certain way, females look a certain way. Is that true, Jill? Are we looking at certain characteristics that they look differently?
It is true. The adults, by the adult stage of most ticks are easier to identify, but the larval and nymph stages are not easy to identify. And I, as much knowledge as I have, I will not tell somebody straight up what I think that tick might be.
Right.
Because I need a microscope. I mean, worked with entomologists from University of Alberta, and you need a microscope for proper identification. Mm-hmm. Actually, the first ticks I ever collected around here came off a roadkill deer, and I sent them to the U of A, and the entomologist messaged back, and she goes, oh, I don't even think these are ticks, but we'll let another specialist come in and take a look. And it turns out they were a species of tick they didn't know was in Alberta.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So just by fluke,
yeah,
did I collect these.
So Jill, when it comes to ticks, obviously the fear is getting sick. What diseases do they carry, and how are they transferred?
Well, ticks transfer any pathogens they're carrying. They bite you, so through their saliva and through their gut contents. So, man, there's so many diseases they carry. There's over 300 known strains of Lyme disease. We have over 100 known strains in North America. We know there's 3 strains in Canada, although we don't have testing for all 3 strains, which is a bit of a fail on the medical field part. But I mean, anaplasmosis, babesia, Bartonella, that Borrelia miyamotoi is a Lyme disease. Borrelia burgdorferi.
So before the program, we were just chatting, and you were saying that there was a study of the amount of ticks that you had sent in for testing. I think it was a really high amount that were confirmed had some sort of a disease. Is that not what you were saying?
Well, the ones we collected some ticks off a moose up by Pine Lake. It was a roadkill moose, and it was loaded. It was alive with ticks, but it was a dead moose. And those ticks became part of John Scott's research paper released earlier this year, at the end of 2019. And those ticks, the albopictus, Dermacentor albopictus ticks, the moose ticks, were carrying Lyme disease. And they are now implicated in also spreading babesia. So there's 2 known infections from the moose tick. The winter tick, which everybody thinks is harmless, it's not.
So should we be worried about our children playing in grass, or our pets, or even wild animals as sportsmen? What should be concerned about there?
Really need to prevent the bite. Is wearing repellent. And there's some great repellents that are unscented. I mean, my son still goes hunting with some of his buddies, and they wear the scented repellent. Doesn't really matter. They always get their game. But there's some great repellents that are safe to spray on your gear as well as your skin and your dog. And they contain the 20% acaridin, not the DEET repellents, but the acaridin repellents.
So if somebody was to be bitten, say a child was bitten, and maybe it wasn't caught right away, what do you suggest should happen if somebody finds a tick that's been burrowed in for quite a while?
Well, you want to remove it properly. So it is really important that nobody uses lotions or potions or matchsticks or hot pins. All of that can cause, you'll smother the tick. You'll cut off its breathing and you will cause it to vomit into you. So that's extra tick juice going into whoever it's attached to. You want to avoid that at all costs. So we use fine tip tweezers, and we actually have tick removal kits available through our website and through our Facebook page. Fine tip tweezers, and we brought in the Tick Ease tweezers, and they're manufactured in the United States, but we researched every removal device, and these were by far the best. And you want to grab a tick. I don't know if you could see, if there was a tick right on my arm, you would put the tweezers right to your skin level, pinch right between your skin and where the tick is attached, and slow and steady, pull straight up. And you want that tick straight up and out. Don't twist it, don't bend it.
I want you to come back to removal, but I want you to also identify to some of our listeners about what actually is burrowed into the skin. Back in the day, the wise tales like, oh, the head of that wood tick is burrowed in the skin. That's not true, is it, Jill?
No, it's pretty fascinating. We had a company made these 3D printer ticks. They're pretty big, but they're great for showing. The only part of a tick that goes in your skin is this centerpiece on the tick mouth here. Hope you can see that. The side piece is open, and just the hypostome, it's like a hypodermic needle with barbs. That is the only part that goes in your skin, and as the tick engorges, if it's a female, the tick will get bigger, but it doesn't go any deeper into you.
So is it possible to pull it out incorrectly, and is any part still left in there?
Yes. I mean, you could break off the mouthpiece, which you don't want to do because that mouthpiece contains saliva. And whatever other, maybe there's some gut pathogens within the mouthpiece. You want every bit of it out. And then just leaving that part in there could even cause a secondary infection because it's a little foreign body.
Right.
Because like Darren said, the old wise tale was you pull it out incorrectly, you're going to leave the head in there, and then it'll still be alive.
No, it won't be alive.
So let's say that you have a tick, you have the tweezers, you remove the tick. Am I done? I know that you're talking about treating it now. What is used to treat it? What should every outdoors person, anybody who's got small children, pets, ultimately everybody in Canada, what should we have in our kit, in our tick kit? What are some things that come in that kit? What are we looking for?
I mean, we use we use the Loris, the disinfectants. And you don't disinfect before you remove the tick because that will just agitate the tick again, having a foreign substance on it. So you remove the tick, and then you want to disinfect the bite area, your hands, and your tweezers, because some ticks can carry surface infections.
Wow.
So you don't want to put your tweezers back in your kit and bring them out and reinfect something else.
Well,
So
before we leave tonight, I'm going to buy a couple of those kits from you, and I'll if somebody shares this program, I'll draw a name out of a hat, but I'll get a couple of those kits for you from you.
Right on. Thanks, Mark. And then you want to contain the tick, whether you have a baggie, a sandwich bag. We have little vials that come as part of the tick removal kit, the little containment to save your ticks in. If you want to draw a pen mark around the bite mark, draw with a pen, and just watch for an expanding rash. Less than 10% of people who, if they get infected with Lyme disease, end up with this EM bullseye-looking rash. The rash can look like anything, or it can be nothing. But just keep an eye on your bite site. It's hard to do when they bite in your hair or on your back or in the groin area. actually had a hiker friend, very tick aware, went for a hike in mid-March, didn't see a tick, was layered up, got home, jumped in the shower later on, and he ended up having 3 ticks attached to his man parts, which he was very shocked about. He said
That's my biggest fear right there.
So Jill, I do some custom fencing in the summertime, and my guys and I, we do lots of shedhorn hunting and beaver trapping and stuff like that. So we actually have a tick jar started, and usually put some alcohol in there and drop them in to kill them. But this is actually mouthwash, so these guys are gonna have some good breath. But we have our tick jar started, and I know that with talking to you, I talked to you for about an hour the other day, just about all sorts of stuff. And you're saying, you told me not to kill those ticks. And the reason for that is because the research. You would like people, and I'm going to basically make an invite here. You want people to send you these ticks, and people send you right now ticks from all over Canada so they can be studied. So I know that you said I could send these into you, but you'd actually prefer them live. So tell our viewers, why live ticks? How do I keep them alive? And why do we need to send them into you?
Well, there is no active tick surveillance happening within Canada, unless it is somebody gets a tick bite and it's reported that it came back positive for carrying Lyme disease. Then maybe the local health authority will go and investigate the area they said they thought they picked the tick up in. Because there is no active surveillance, we do active surveillance. We actively collect ticks every month of the year. January, there's live ticks. February, March, every month of the year. And we send them to our researcher in Ontario, or we'll send them to one in New Brunswick. A researcher at U of A is finished, and she's writing her paper now on what her study was. So it's important to know what our ticks are carrying, whether it be a dog tick, a wood tick, a deer tick, it doesn't matter. They all have the potential to carry horrible health-altering pathogens.
So Jill, let's say hypothetically I pulled one off that was attached and I sent it to you, and that tested positive for something. Now what should we do?
Okay, no. See, here's the thing. Ticks that are attached to human beings, knowingly attached and feeding, I technically don't want. I want you to get them tested, because my test results with working with the researchers will take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And that's no good for a human or a dog or anybody. So we actually partnered up with Genetics. Genetics is the only public access tick testing lab in Canada. And with that, within our tick removal kits that we sell, you get an automatic discount code if you ever need to send a tick in to get it tested. But Genetics is actually run by a fella who contracted Lyme disease while studying in Alberta. And he has recovered and finished his schooling and opened his tick testing lab for the public.
So why do ticks get so big, Jill?
Those are the female ticks. The female ticks engorge. They will balloon up with your blood, and then they'll fall off, and then they go and lay their hundreds, if up to 20,000 eggs.
Wow.
And then the females die, and then you end up having up to 20,000 little babies running around, starting the process over.
So I just recently harvested a black bear like a week ago, and then when we hung it up, it had numerous of those big, grape-sized ticks on. I was just plucking them off, and they were just falling to the ground. But I remember talking with my buddy that was there. He thought it was eggs. I said, no, it's full of blood. So it's full of blood, right?
Well, it's full of blood and probably developing eggs, right? So the eggs are developing as this female tick takes her last meal. But then I had ticks lay eggs in a jar in my house here last summer. Ticks we had pulled off a horse down by Drumheller. And sure enough, all 3 ticks, even though they hadn't completely fed, all reproduced and laid eggs.
Wow. I know, going back to the old wives' tale, and I feel like I missed out on a bunch of childhood,
Me too.
truth. But there was always that, hey, if you're gonna go picking Saskatoons or you're gonna go picking mushrooms, you gotta wear something over your head and a jacket and all these things. Jill, is it true that they actually drop from trees, or is it from the ground up that we need to start kind of combating these things?
From 99% of the time, it will be from the ground up. Ticks spend most of their time in the grass or in very low shrubbery. They need to find a host. A host walks by them. That's their goal to their next meal. They're not going to find a meal hanging out in a branch high up in a tree. So they actually have teeny tiny hooks on the ends of their questing legs. So as you walk by, it can be the slightest brush by, but they can latch on.
Yeah.
And ticks love to crawl to their favorite hiding spots. And some of them are your neck, behind your ears, and in your hair. So yeah, the old wives' tale of put a hat on, just gave the ticks a warmer place to go, I think.
Yeah, I'm just looking past your shoulder there, and there's a bunch of places on that poster you got here of where they can hide. Other shoulder, yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
we're looking at the scalp, back of the neck, underarms, back belly button. Got wrist, hips, groin area, behind the knees, ankles, between the toes, which is I find that very crazy, and then in your gear and on your clothing. So there you have it right there. Are they going to a moist place on your body or a warm place on your body? Because I have a buddy that comes out and does some fencing with me. If he's looking for a tick, he just has to go to his temple, and they always go to that same spot for some reason. And I'm not sure why that is, but every time we go out, they're always going to that same spot.
I hope it's not the only place he checks.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they'll even attach to your elbow. Like, I don't know, sweaty parts. They'll attach to your hand. Some ticks will search around for a long time and find the good spot. And other ticks don't have a sweet spot. They just bite you wherever.
Yeah.
So Jill, are ticks, like for years, ticks have been really problematic for the moose and other big game in the wild. When is too much for them, and what do they actually get sick of? Do they get sick of whatever disease or other parasites they have, or do they actually just they get bit so much that they succumb to that? I know people, that's a conversation all the time.
I mean, it could be both cases. Ticks every year, if you follow the research and follow there's so much out there. Every year they find a new tick-borne disease. I mean, this has been around for 40 years, and they're still discovering mutations of diseases and new tick-borne diseases. Do they affect the wildlife differently? They might. I mean, the studies just aren't done yet. But as for the moose especially, they can get thousands and thousands of ticks that will drain them of their blood.
So are they can you consume the meat even though they're infested with ticks, or what do you suggest?
We eat wild game.
Because I know the environment has no issue with it.
That's true. I mean, you cook your meat properly. You don't eat it raw. There's too many what ifs. So you cook your meat properly, it will kill all that bacteria. I eat wild game. We process it. We butcher it ourselves. So I think we're okay.
I know that you can go to the veterinarian and get a pill for your dog for wood ticks, or you can have a collar. Why don't we as humans have that? Is that something that is just only dogs can have, or cats can have, or because I know that you can take treatment for it with a pill, or you can wear a collar, but there doesn't seem anything on the market for humans.
You can. I mean, the collars and the pills contain, among other things, but they contain permethrin, and it is a certain percentage. I mean, that the pets can handle. I know there have been cases, like any medication, there can cause 10 other different side effects, but that's owner's preference, what they want to use. We do have the option of driving to the United States and purchasing permethrin spray to treat your clothing and gears. Not for your skin, not for consuming internally, but for your gear. We used to order it online, but they've stopped allowing that. But you are allowed to drive to the US and purchase all you want. Canadian Tire started carrying a line of clothing that is actually permethrin treated. It's called No Fly Zone, and it is good for up to 70 washes. It's good stuff. We've purchased a lot of it, especially, I mean, my son Connor, he's now 25, so he'll be sick half his life this year. He'll be 26 this year. But I make sure he's outfitted in it. And we use bug repellents that are, I mean, this is made in Alberta, called Jungle Juice. And it's a 20% acaridin spray. And it's safe to spray. It won't destroy your gear or your fishing lines or your climbing gear like DEET does. It's safe to use with all of that and lasts for up to 12 hours. And it works great. We have tried all of these brands. They work fantastic.
And is that something you can just order online through a website, Jill, or how do you get Jungle Juice?
Jungle Juice is made by Dr. Doom, and it's in Edmonton. They do have a website. There's also, I wish they would sponsor me.
Jungle Juice and Dr. Doom, if you're hearing us.
There's also Combat. And Coleman makes an odorless DEET-free repellent.
Okay, there you have it, folks.
Yeah.
So you talked about manufactured preventative measures, but what can you do at home if you don't have that stuff, or you just simply check your children, check your pets? And how often should you check your pets and stuff?
I mean, daily, minimum. If you're outside a lot, I mean, you go down to the river, you go wherever, out in the farmyard, for walks through city parks, the ticks are everywhere. So they have no preference on who they bite as long as they get a meal. So daily tick checks minimum. If you're out camping, maybe you want to check 2 or 3 times a day. And if you're with a partner, get somebody else to check the back of your head and your back and, you know, the parts you can't see, or didn't bring a handheld mirror.
Yeah. Brad Paisley song. I like to check you for ticks.
The song. Check for ticks.
Yeah. When it comes to that, Jill, I know we had discussed a little bit earlier, but it seems like children are a little more prone to getting wood ticks, and that's because they're a little lower to the ground, rolling in the ground, rolling in the grass. But this isn't just a rural thing. I know we talked about this earlier as well. This isn't a rural thing. This is an everybody thing. Just because you're in Regina or, you know, you're in an office building, that doesn't mean that you're not susceptible for getting ticks. And I know, Muck, we talked about this the other day. After I got off the conversation with Jill, I phoned you, and you had just come off a shift, and you had to, you know, go after a suspect in the trees, and you had a wood tick on you sitting in the hospital with your suspect. So, and that's right in the city of Regina.
Yeah, I had it crawling up my neck, and I was sitting in the emergency room with this guy. He was waiting to get looked at for some other stuff, and I could feel it, and I was like, how in the heck did I get this? I mean, I'm in a police car basically 12 hours a day, and sure enough, I had a tick on me.
Yep.
And just because you'll hear that, oh, stay out of the long grass, stay where I cut my grass in my yard, I don't know where the ticks are coming from. It doesn't matter if you have long grass or short grass, they're going to be there.
That's right. A tick will be in its whatever habitat it is. If it's a habitat of short grass, that's where the eggs hatched out. That's where they're going to find them.
You know, the funny thing with ticks is there's so many like home remedies, home stories, do's and don'ts that I don't know that we've all heard as growing up. But one thing that uh, surprised me in our conversation, Jill, is that you said there's ticks all year round. Because right now, people are always saying, "Oh, the ticks are bad from March till kind of the end of June,
Oh,
and then they go away."
they
Is
come
that
out
true?
they come out in the spring. They come
That's
out in the
right.
spring.
And then they disappear in August. Is that true?
No, I mean, what they're doing, they come out hard and fast as soon as the weather is favorable for them. They come out in droves and they get their blood meals, especially the adult ones, and then they lay their eggs. Now, the adult females will die, the adult males will die, but now you have thousands of eggs that are going to hatch out in 3 to 6 weeks, depending on their environment. So in 3 to 6 weeks, you're going to have thousands of teeny tiny ticks looking for their first blood meal.
How do they survive the winter, Jill?
They just lay dormant under ground cover, snow, leaves. They actually have a built-in antifreeze system. Like, they are spectacular little beings. They can withstand cold temperatures for a long time. And a lot of hard-bodied ticks can go up to 2 years between their blood meals.
So
they have to wait 2 years.
If they're in a freezer, do they die or do they just go kind of dormant?
Well, depending how long. We've had lots of samples. We keep them in our freezer until I'm ready to do a big shipment. And as soon as they come out and warm up, they're looking for a meal.
Wow. So, Jill, when we talked about wood ticks and really having no natural predators, is that true?
I mean, the odd magpie is going to eat them. They
Not
really
that you know of, right?
predator, besides dehydration.
Yeah, I know that. While you're talking about the one tick that lived up to 70 days submerged in water?
Underwater, yeah. A lone star tick. And the nymph deer tick lived 24 days completely submerged underwater before it died.
Wow. I know that I have a cousin who raises a certain type of guinea hen, and she sells a lot to people that have acreages and stuff, and they let these hens walk around, and they seem to and chickens as well, I guess, but they seem to pick up wood ticks around their farmyards and stuff like that. But like as you said, unless they're they're raptor birds or something that they're feeding and they happen to pick these up, or seems to be no real natural predator for these things.
No, they seem to be able to live out their life cycle quite easily and then reproduce. So the numbers are increasing. I mean, Lyme disease alone is the #1 infectious disease in Canada. So that's a scary thought.
So I was browsing your Facebook page, Tick Awareness Canada, and is tick paralysis really a thing?
Oh, absolutely.
So why don't we talk about that? Because I seen the pictures of the kids that were on there, and I'm just that horrifies me to hear that.
Yep. Yeah, it would be terrifying. There's been a number of cases I've read about in BC. Actually spoke with some livestock owners in Saskatchewan that lost a pony to tick paralysis. It's the female ticks. They possess a toxin that they can pass on when they feed, and it's ascending paralysis. It starts at the feet and it ascends up. So the one child I think you're referencing was in British Columbia just a few weeks ago, that her parents noticed that she couldn't stand, or she couldn't stand for long, and then she couldn't walk. So they took her to the doctor. It took a long time, and none of those physicians between two hospitals considered to look for a tick until many, many hours into it, where the paralysis had ascended all the way up. It will stop your breathing and essentially kill you because it paralyzes every system in your body.
So Jill, I know, like, going back to your son's situation and them, the doctors and the medical staff not identifying possibly a tick was the reason. Why do you think there's this stigma or lack of that being such a big thing? Like, why are we not ruling that into ruling that out. Well, maybe it's a tick. Like, why is there such a neglect in going after the tick being the issue?
Well, this can be my opinion. I mean, every province, Alberta, for example, says, oh, Saskatchewan and BC have the bad ticks. We don't have hardly any. And then Saskatchewan says, oh, it's Alberta and Manitoba. They're loaded with bad ticks, so we don't have any. And BC says, no, they're all in Alberta and Saskatchewan. It's sadly, it's become political. And no medical condition or the risk of causing all these different medical conditions should ever be political. I don't know. I think the cost to the healthcare system is far greater with every person who has a tick-borne illness going for countless doctor visits and trying countless prescriptions and countless tests. And my son alone has probably had over 20 MRIs. His body doesn't need that.
Yeah, and they're not cheap either, right?
No, and our medical system doesn't need this one kid going for 20 MRIs over 7 years.
Right.
When if they consider tick-borne illnesses, take a look at the symptoms, because most tick-borne illnesses are to be clinical diagnoses. You don't need a test. If you're presenting with X number of symptoms, let's treat that.
So if say I had a tick attached to me and I was concerned, or say one of my a child had it and you were concerned, who would you send that tick to? How would you get tested? Because I mean, we've just talked about the things that could happen to you, and obviously it's a big fear.
And I'm not here to create fear. I want people aware, and I want them educated on the risks of ticks. Because the more awareness and education we have, maybe nobody will get bitten by ticks anymore. They'll all know the proper preventative measures to take and to watch out for. But you want to send a tick that bit your child or yourself, a loved one, I would send it to get tested. And genetics is an option. There's options to send it to Germany or to the California. It's up to you. They all cost, unfortunately, but the cost will be much less than not checking it and your child or loved one ends up sick.
So Jill, let's say that we have the ear of the Ministry of Health in Saskatchewan, or the health minister that has a portfolio in Canada. If you had their ear and said, if you had a wish list, what's your biggest selling points, or a couple biggest selling points about why we should have more tick research in Canada or in your province or in our province? What would be your selling points to them?
Well, right now there's way too many people falling through the cracks. There is no doctor to go to that is fully educated on tick-borne illnesses. Most doctors are afraid to treat because of how political it's become. So we have different guidelines, and you'll find them on the Public Health Agency website, the Public Health Agency of Canada. So we have different treatment guideline options. We like the ILADS guidelines because they are very broad, and it is treat until the patient is better. The other guidelines, ISDA, are you get either one pill or 2 weeks or 3 weeks of one medication, and if you're still sick, well, it must be something else. So most doctors are on the mentality of here's one antibiotic pill, you should be better. That doesn't work that way. There's so much research. There's so much research and teaching that can be done, and updates for provincial clinicians. Update them on the possibility and to get them to consider tick-borne illnesses instead of their old standby, oh, another one with MS. Now, Canada is the MS capital of the world, and we have the lowest rates of tick-borne infections. Something to think about.
So Jill, how can people support your cause then?
Well, become aware. become aware. I mean, check out the website, check out the Facebook page. There's lots of information. And I know I can dump a lot of information in a short time frame, so I apologize. We are available for tick safety presentations. We travel to different towns and cities and provinces. Of course, there's a fee because I can't afford to do it all out of pocket. We do have our tick removal kits. They come in 4 different colors and contain everything you need to safely remove and contain any ticks that may be attached to you. And there's other information, and there's brochures and genetics brochures.
I can't imagine anybody camping would not want to have one of those, or would want to have one of those tick kits with them in their camper.
I mean, you want to be prepared, because every day I probably get 6 or 7 more messages saying, oh my gosh, I had a tick on me and I live in Ontario. Yesterday was in Spruce Grove near Edmonton. This fella took his kids to the play park and he ended up with an attached tick on him. Like, they're everywhere. So be prepared, be educated, use your repellent. Tuck your pants into your socks, but the repellent is good. We spray our shoes and our socks. And if you're going to go in bare feet, spray your feet and your sandals or whatever. I start from the ground up and I spray myself. I know there's some people who rely on essential oils for repellents. They have been tested and they are not reliable for over 2 hours at a time, if that long. So when it comes to the health of my kids or myself, and I want to use an essential, no. Nothing against essential oils. I love them. They smell great. They have other purposes for me, but I won't use them as a repellent. I can't put my health on that.
So Jill, like the Tick Awareness Canada, obviously looking for support, looking for sponsorship, looking for donations. Go to the website, buy a tick kit. I know you guys have a fundraiser going on there right now. We'd encourage our listeners and people to go out there and support you guys with your fundraiser.
Yeah, we have a grocery shopping spree fundraiser going on. Who doesn't need groceries?
That's right.
Or a lot of my hunter friends are like, I don't want groceries. I want to go to Cabela's. And I said, well, if you win the $1,500 in gift cards, you go into Safeway or Sobeys or whatever your store is called, and you can buy $1,500 in Cabela's gift cards.
There you go.
But if we have some listeners out there that are involved with organizations that are looking to sponsor a great cause and a person who's obviously has done a lot of research and wears this on her sleeve, the pride of trying to educate people, we'd ask them to reach out to you through the website or through Facebook, and whatever they can help out with donations. It really goes right back into the cause and going out to educate people. I know we had made arrangements for Jill to come to the Parkland Outdoor Show this year. Unfortunately, it was canceled because of the whole COVID scare. But 2021, I hope Jill can make it for next year in April, and we'd love to have you back. But for those people that are listening that belong to organizations or outdoor groups or hunting, whatever you have it, anybody really, we encourage them to reach out to you and make a donation to your cause or help support any of the fundraisers. So
that would be great. Thank you so much.
So Jill, if somebody was to buy either a ticket or buy a kit, can they buy that directly from your Facebook page or from the website? How do they get a hold of you?
It's on the website. There is a shop, a shop option on the website. Or they could shoot me a message through Facebook or email. I work this 24/7. I don't stop because ticks don't.
Okay. Well, Jill, is there, I know that you talked about, different situations where you harvested wood ticks and stuff. I have never personally seen an animal completely full of them. I've seen, my auntie's dogs would have them on him and we pull them off him with a pair of pliers. I know that's not the correct way to do that, but we would do that as kids. They'd have these big raspberries on them. What is the situation or the one that comes to mind where just kind of, even for you, blew your mind of an animal you came across was completely just loaded with ticks? Can you share that experience with us?
Our worst animal was that roadkill moose. out by Pine Lake. And we were actually on our way to an awareness event. And we're like, geez, you know, I wish we could get some live ticks. And well, lo and behold, there's a big old dead moose. And it was crawling. I have video somewhere. I have video where it's just crawling with ticks.
Wow.
And those are the ticks that ended up testing positive for Lyme disease.
Isn't that
So,
something?
Well, my bear was, like, I joke about it all the time that there was thousands, but there really was thousands. It was there, like I said earlier, there's wasn't a square inch of that bear that wasn't crawling or attached. It was unbelievable. I don't know how that bear didn't go crazy.
I just checked some bear hides a couple weeks ago. Called a taxidermist friend called me. And there's another at-risk group, or taxidermists. I can't believe how many didn't consider ticks. Because a lot of hunters, a lot of outdoors people think once their deer is dead, the ticks are dead. And once the deer is dead, the ticks are mad. And they're going to come find a warm source, which will be you. Or if you throw your hide out for your pets, they'll go on your pets, right? I know it's a common thing to do, throw the hides out, the dogs chew on it, but not the best idea. Yeah. I should tell you about that one study done in Saskatchewan 11 years ago. And it's a published research paper. And they tested the dog ticks and the wood ticks. Now, the provincial labs do not test those ticks because they're just common pests. But actually, the testing done from Lethbridge, Cypress Hills, and then all provincial parks, Saskatchewan Landing Provincial Park, Grasslands, Buffalo Pond, Douglas Provincial, Danielson, Outlook, Harris, Saskatoon, they went all over. But about 80% average positive for infections.
That's incredible.
Wow.
It is incredible. And those are the ticks most people disregard.
So would our vets have anything, would they know about tick-borne stuff if I took my dog to the vet and it was sick for whatever reason?
Depends on your vet. There are some participating vets in Saskatchewan that actually participate in a monthly reporting system. If they there's some really good quick testing out for tick-borne illnesses for pets. I'd actually like to get my hands on them and test my son's blood again. But anyway, it's available. Testing is available. I do not know the cost of it, but they have a monthly reporting system that they share in Canada. Saskatchewan, I now know as of this month, from however many reporting veterinarians there are, there's now one confirmed case of Lyme disease and a confirmed case of anaplasmosis, both tick-borne illnesses.
So, hey, one thing that popped into my mind when we're talking about removal, and I don't know if you want to get more into that before we go, but one of the old wives' tales is you pour something on it and then it'll pull itself out. Is that a thing?
Like mint or something, right?
Yeah, like mint or, yeah.
It's okay. It works, but at a cost. So the minute you smother a tick or cut off its ability to breathe, it's going to regurgitate. It has to spit out what it's in its mouth. It'll regurgitate, vomit into you to back out. So now you've just got an extra shot of tick juice, which is the opposite of what you want when you're removing a tick. Like, ticks breathe through their body. So it's like if you had a mouthful of milk and somebody came up and plugged your nose, how are you going to talk? You're going to have to spit your milk out, you know?
Well, that's it. I'm glad you cleared that up, because there's always a wise tale about pulling them out, or then you get the people that are hard fast about smothering them. And I'm glad you cleared that up, because I'll never do that. I
mean, yeah, it works, but the cost is, consider the cost. It's too high.
What about, is there a bad time or a good time to remove ticks? Like, and what I mean by that is, if they're really, really attached, do you have to really watch what you do, or you just pull them suckers out?
No, same thing. You go you get some nice tweezers, and right at your skin level, And the tweezers we sell are so pointy they can get in your belly button or inside your ear. But there's a lot of places, there's a lot of other tick removal tools that can't access those favorite spots of where a tick attaches. But it's right at the skin level. You close those tweezers and it's a slow and steady pull. Don't rip it out because you don't want to leave a mouthpiece in there.
Well, I guarantee you, I'm going to make you a promise, because I get so many ticks on me when I'm up north hunting that next year when I go, I am going to collect every tick that's on me, and I am going to send them to you.
Perfect. That'll be wonderful.
I probably get an average of 7 to 10 a day.
Wow. I am not jealous. I don't want them on me.
So, hey, Jill, we're going to wrap it up, but I'm going to give you a chance to sort of finish off, explain what you want to see people doing moving forward with ticks, as far as awareness, as far as caring for them. I'll give you some time here to kind of fill us in on what you'd like to see moving forward, or anything like that.
Okay. Well, our goal is education. So everything from occupational hazards like yourself, your day job, you're in a hazard. Search and rescue people, even daycares and dog walkers. Everybody's just know if you're outside, you're at risk. And recreational hazards, same way. I would like to get these education programs and booklets. We've made up some kids workbooks, which makes learning about ticks not scary. It makes it fun. So I'd like to see that in the schools. Get the education out there. It'd be great to have some sponsorship, because even printing all of this material to hand out is it's fairly costly.
Is there a cost for those workbooks?
No, I mean, I don't charge. We've been doing a lot of community groups, so Cub Scouts and Girl Guides. That in itself is another volunteer community group, so I can't charge them hundreds of dollars to cover my.
Well, I'm just thinking that, you know, with Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation, all the branches that are out within our province, you know, what a great opportunity to educate our young people and our veteran outdoors people, and, you know, our wildlife groups reaching out to you and making a donation just to help you cover some of those costs, to get them into the hands of our young outdoors people and our veteran outdoors people as well.
Yes, yeah. He was great. I worked with them on a tick safety workbook during this COVID shutdown. So he put something out on their website as well about tick safety. So that's the hunter education instructors. So it is pretty important. Yeah, education, people practicing tick safety, awareness, prevent the bite. Give us a shout if your company needs an awareness presentation. Every one of them is custom, so if you want a 20-minute presentation or you need a 3-hour, you can do either way. Anything in between. So safety, everybody needs a tick removal kit, I'm pretty sure. This is always in the glove box of my car. There's one in our backpack. There's one in every hunting pack in the house. I want to be safe, not sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, Darren, I think we're going to try to do our best, at least at our point, to get your message out there, get you some funding somehow, or at least get people in contact with you that can maybe help you out, because I don't think people realize, you know, the problem we could have or do have with ticks.
Well, they said by year 2020, Eastern Canada will be 80% endemic with infected ticks. Well, it's 2020, and it pretty much is. I mean, Ontario already has, in dogs alone, Ontario has 1,200 cases of Lyme disease from January to June 1st. That's 5 months. And dogs are really good sentinels of disease for people, because people are usually walking their dogs and exposed to the same environment.
Or living with them, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I thank you guys so much for the opportunity. It was good to talk.
Well, I was super excited to talk to you. Ticks are always everybody's mind, especially this time of year. Doesn't matter what you do, any form of outdoors, from hunting to simply backpacking or even hiking. And it's just amazing how many ticks you can have on you.
Yep. We get lots of reports from the tops of mountains. They're like, it's barren rock. How did the ticks get here? But they're there.
Darren, you got anything?
Well, like I said, I talked to Jill a few times kind of over the last little while about coming to the show. And then when I called her, reached out to her and got a hold of her about, I know the first time I tried reaching out, she was collecting ticks off of a bear. And then she gave me a call back afterwards. But I talked to her for an hour, and there was a bunch of things I was asking her and learned a lot. But spending some time with you tonight here, Jill, really has expanded my view on ticks and the do's and don'ts and the things that, I grew up thought I knew about ticks.
Oh, me too.
And this has really opened my eyes to it. And I hope that we can get the message out there to help you out. I will be sending you some money for a couple of those kits to put in my work trucks for my guys, and then also just having around our house. But I want you to continue to spread that message, and we'll do what we can to help you. But thanks for doing this, Jill. I know that, the volunteer, the unpaid volunteer is sometimes gets overlooked, but I want to extend a thank you on behalf of a lot of people that, the job that you are doing and the motivation you got behind it. So.
Yes, yeah, I'm a crazy mama. I've got to look out for all kids now, I guess. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Jill, thank you very much. And I look forward to you coming to the Parkland show, and definitely we'll look you up when you're there.
Yes, I'll be excited to finally get there.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up, and thanks for watching episode 5. Just so you know, Jill, Darren and I nicknamed you the Tick Lady.
Usually what my tables are labeled when I show up.
All right, guys. Have a great night. Thanks for everybody joining us, and thank you, Jill.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Jill.